Hi, this is H.C. Bailey, and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy II. Today, I'm going to start going over the game mechanics of this version of the game, and how I plan to arrange my party. There's a lot of new stuff in this game, compared to other Final Fantasy games, so it's going to require a couple episodes, so I'll upload them both today, along with my preparations for the adventure ahead. And I'll try to answer everyone's questions from episode 0 that I posted and the emails that I got. So I know a little bit about the new versions of the game, so I'll try to make comparisons when I can. Someone asked about how challenging and long this game is. I'd say it's reasonably challenging, but not too much if you know what you're doing. It's certainly not a game that you can just jump into without a long-term plan of how you want to develop your party, unless you just exploit some leveling glitches, which I will cover later. I'd probably say this game's probably about as long as Final Fantasy 1, maybe a little longer. I really don't know time, so it's hard for me to compare, and I haven't played the newer versions of the game very much, so... Now, you start with the 3 characters here. Don't worry about putting too much effort into developing them, because they'll be staying with you throughout the entire game. It's not like Final Fantasy 4, where characters were constantly going in and out. However, as you can see, without Leon, you now have room for a 4th party member. This person will enter and leave your party as the storyline progresses, just like Final Fantasy 4 there. I try to use them as they're already set up, because they'll start with their own stats and equipment and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, don't worry too much on their development, because usually they won't stay with you too long. Now, the first thing I want to go over in this game is the equipment. Now, unlike later versions of the game, dual wielding does not work in this one. I mean, you can't simply equip 2 weapons and have them deal their combined damage, because at least in this game, characters are either right or left-handed. However, everyone can equip a weapon and a shield, which the latter is critically important in this version of the game. The reasons shields are so important is that they increase your evade, naturally. But more than that, evade influences so many things that you would normally think agility does. Agility is, yeah, let's get to the status here. Yeah, agility is simply a base factor in determining your evade percentage. But evade is what actually does everything. Evade is a derived stat. And evade influences, for example, how likely you are to gain agility in a battle. It gives you a much better chance of acting first in battle before your enemies. So, like if you run into a group of cockatrices, for example, you know, you want to be faster than them so you can kill them before they can get you stoned. And evade also determines how likely you can run, but we're not going to be using that. And finally, it determines how likely you are to avoid a hit. Duh! Now, unfortunately, if you're going to be using a shield to help out with your evade, which I highly recommend, that means you can forget about using fists or bows as your weapons, which is a very good trade in my opinion. I'd really rather do it that way. Now, the way evasion works in this game is as follows. First, someone attacks someone else, and the game figures out how many hits the attacker is going to deliver. Then, the game checks the target's evade count. You see the number next to evade, there's 1-14% there. The 1 is their evade count. That's how many chances they will have to evade an attack at a chance of 14% each. And so once you figure out how many hits you're going to evade, you subtract the number of avoided hits from the number of successful hits, and you will have the number of hits that end up landing and dealing damage. Magic defense works in the same way. They have a count as a number next to it and an evade percentage there. And now for the evade stats. Power influences your attack. It's not 1-for-1, but it helps it. But more importantly, it affects your hit percentage. It'll randomly increase, power randomly increases after a battle is completed when you attack in battle with your weapons. But due to a bug in the programming, an increase in power doesn't automatically affect your attack. The game doesn't recalculate it for you. So you have to remove your weapon or shield and then re-equip it to see the difference. Then it'll recalculate it. So it's similar to the black belt armor bug in the Final Fantasy 1. So the same goes for agility and evade. When you gain agility, you want to remove your equipment and re-equip it to recalculate your new evade. Now, agility will randomly increase when you are the target of a physical attack by an enemy. And I'm certain that increasing your evade increases your chance of increasing agility, but anyway, don't worry about it. I mean, it's much faster to increase your evade with shields than your base agility. I wouldn't worry too much about agility, so. The vitality and HP will randomly increase when your HP decreases by a certain amount. I would usually say you'd have to lose at least 20% to have a real chance of gaining either vitality or HP. When you do gain HP, though, it'll increase by whatever your vitality is. So when Furion would gain HP, he would gain 10 HP right now, because that's what his vitality is. So the same goes for Magic Power and MP. Magic Power is kind of like the vitality for MP. It works the same way. So Intelligence actually works in this game, as opposed to Final Fantasy 1. It adds to the damage of your black magic spells and the hit percentage of your black magic spells. It'll randomly increase if you cast black magic during a battle. Stat increases occur at the end of the battle, just so you know, if I didn't mention that. But anyway, Soul works in the same way as Intelligence, but for white magic. So the game doesn't really tell you so directly what white and black magic is, but I'll sort it out for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Now that said, the way you gain the stats, it doesn't mean that you can so easily develop a powerful melee fighter and a mage all in one character. You can't. It's pretty hard to be good at everything, because when you use physical attacks regularly, there's also a random chance of losing intelligence. Casting white magic can cause you to lose power, and casting black magic can cause you to lose vitality. So, it's really a good idea to try and focus each character in a particular area, which I will go over later. Now on the bottom you can see your weapon skills there. The number on the left of each weapon is your level for that weapon, kind of like Secret of Mana in a way. The number on the right is your experience. When you reach 100 experience, you gain a level, and the maximum level is 16. The amount of experience you gain during battle is determined by how many times you attacked, what level you're at, and what rank or level your enemy is. If you're fighting really weak monsters compared to you, you're probably not going to gain that much experience. But anyway, for each level you gain in a weapon, your hit count increases in your hit percentage there. And magic spells work in the same way, except they progress a lot quicker. When shields gain a level, it multiplies their base evasion percentage and adds it to your evade. For example, if a shield has a base evade percentage of 5 and you have a shield level of 4, it will contribute 20% to your evade. Now for the cheats. Now, there's also what we call the select cancel trick, which I will demonstrate. Let's get into a battle here. But the way it works is you select a command, you cancel it, and the game thinks that you still executed the command. Here, I'll demonstrate right here. So you select, cancel, and you can do this over and over again to gain obscene levels early in the game. I don't think that's really necessary, so I'm going to skip that one. Now, unlike Final Fantasy 1, you can actually attack your own party members like this. It's just like any other Final Fantasy game for the most part. This is a very easy way of gaining HP, even while fighting very weak monsters. However, I think this is a very bad idea, because first, you'll gain all the HP you need as you go. Just make sure you only heal after battles, because if you recover HP during the battle, the game won't recognize that you lost it earlier in the battle, and you won't gain the HP, you won't trigger it. Second, in the later half of the game, more and more enemies drain HP from you, and drain attacks are based on a percentage of your HP. So the more HP you have, the more they can drain. So this is also why evade is so much more important than raw defense in the long run, because drain attacks just get right around your defense. So, it's not going to really help with that. And one other thing about this game, you can go to a lot of places very early in the game. For example, even the final town in the game is even accessible, provided you either cheat enough in grinding for stats, or you use save states, walk a little while, run into a battle, reload the save state, walk as far as you can, save, reload the save, and just keep on doing that over and over again as you walk to the town. At that town, you can purchase the change or swap spell. In this version, it's called change. It switches or swaps your HP and MP with the target. And this can be quite absurd against monsters at the beginning of the game. I mean, you just cast it against them, and you have a virtually guaranteed chance of gaining Vitality, HP, Magic Power, MP, maybe even Soul. But again, I'm not going to exploit the use of that spell for that purpose. I'm just not going to do, very little grinding at all throughout the game. So I think that's all I can fit in this episode. So that's all for this episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy II. Next time, I'm going to continue going over some more of the mechanics, how I'm going to arrange my party, and all the preparations I need to make. This is H.C. Bailey, signing off. Have a good day.